So we do have a special guest today on the program. We do have Rico Lamoureux, and he does have the book, and I'm sure you can see it right now on the side of the screen. It is Rico's Calling, and he's going to talk about that. And he also has an amazing story, and it's somewhat of a sad story, and we're going to speak about that. And hopefully he'll give the viewers some hope through his story, and hopefully if the viewers can help him out, they will in return. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But Rico, thanks so much for spending time with us tonight.
Thank you, Rob. I'm really happy to be here.
All right. So Rico, can you tell the viewers a little bit about you in general?
Okay, well, let's see. Well, I'm a writer, obviously. I'm a multi-genre author. And yeah, right now my focus is on my crime thriller series. And I'm also a father of a toddler. You're probably hearing him in the background. I got him a new toy, so hopefully he's going to be staying busy while we're talking here. And yeah, right now it's just me and him. I'm fighting to get his mother home to us. And I happen to be totally blind in one eye and legally blind in the other. But thankfully, I'm still functional enough to take care of my son and do my passion of storytelling.
But Rico, can you tell us about your story?
Sure. Well, I'm an American, born and raised. But in 2001, well, actually, when I was 16, my sight went in my left eye, and it went pretty rapidly. Like in 2 weeks, it was totally gone. Every day it would get a little cloudier and cloudier. And so the Joel Stein Clinic, it's a world famous clinic at UCLA, and they flew me out to see if they could save it. But even by the time I got there, it was too late. And so, yeah, it came down. Basically, the story goes is that when I was a newborn, I was a premature and infant, and then this nurse, she had these herpes lesions on her skin, and supposedly when she was taking care of me, she passed it on to me. So you can see in those newborn pictures, I have some on my chest and I had some on my ankles. And so when I was kind of like growing up until 10, I had them off and on, but my siblings never caught them, so I didn't have it, I guess, enough to pass on to anyone. And then they pretty much just went away after 10 years old. But when I was 16, I started to have this eye problem. And at UCLA, they discovered it was because of this earlier problem. And so it's known to attack the retina. And so it was inactive, dormant for so many years, but then it arose. And yeah, I went blind in my eye at 16, but I got used to it relatively quickly. And I just continued to live my life. But then in my mid-20s, basically 11 years later, it started to attack my right eye. And so that's much scarier because now that's the rest of what I have. And so I went back to UCLA, and then they said, yeah, I came back. But I couldn't afford to stay at UCLA, so they shipped me to like an hour and a half to a different hospital. And then they kept me there for 2 weeks and fighting the infection intravenously. And so I was fighting for my sight at that point. And finally, they said, okay, we think you're stable and you have to come see us at least once every couple of weeks to make sure. And so I would do that. But then a couple of months later, my retina actually detached. And so they had to reattach it and put in a buckle around my eye. And then a couple of months later, it detached again. And so they had to put it back in. And this time they put silicone oil in there to keep it from falling off. It's like they describe it like wallpaper. So it's like if this is the eye and this is your retina, and the scar tissue kept pulling at the retina and like pulling wallpaper down. And so they put in the silicone oil to keep it in place and not have that agitation anymore. And so, yeah, this was in 2001. So my life drastically changed at that point. And so they couldn't tell me what was going to happen to me. So basically I was like, you know, one of my life dreams was to be married, to find my soulmate. And so I was like, okay, well, haven't had much luck so far. So I'm going to just place an ad. And I found this place where they place an ad and they send it out to around the world. And so I got a number of replies, and one was from quite a few were from the Philippines. But one, her name is Jocelyn, and so we started talking, and that's how I met my future wife. And so, because I didn't know, I wanted to be able to see my future wife before I went blind if that was going to happen. And so that was the whole point behind it also. And so, let's see, July of 2002, I got on a plane, even though I couldn't see that well at all. And I went to go meet her and we clicked. And within 2 weeks, we were married in her hometown. Wow. And then, I was like, I don't know, how am I going to get her home? I don't meet income requirements, because you have to have an income requirement to get a visa, a spousal visa. And I was on disability at the time. And so I was like, I can't leave her. And so it's very hot in the Philippines and I can't stand the heat, but there's a place called Baguio. It's up in the mountains. And so that's more like a American type climate, like 70s, no more than 80s. And so we decided to set up home there, and I didn't think it would take so long, but 1 year turned into another, and then 5 years, 10 years. And the tough part is I lost my Social Security 3 years in because I was no longer in the US, and then it became really hard. And, but we stuck with it, and we're trying hard to keep from having a child because we wanted to have a child in the US. But, you know, biological clocks do tick. And so in 2016, we tried to start having one. We found out she had fertility issues. So another couple of years of trying different things. And we finally in 2019, we were blessed with our baby, Journey. And then when COVID hit, things went from bad to worse, because that's the rate, third world conditions over there. I lost my youth over there. I went there with all black hair, but the third world conditions are so stressful. But once COVID hit, you know, they became like the dictators over there. You know, you couldn't leave your home. Military were patrolling the streets, and we thought we were going to go hungry. And then even Amnesty International and other human rights groups were speaking out against this. And we finally got organized a month or two in and said, okay, one person per household can leave once a week to go get some food. And so I would go like 2.5 hour walk each way to town to this store that was open. And I would be pulling a suitcase with the wheels on it to get food in there and pull it back. So it was tough, and I didn't know how worse it would get. So we decided, you know, we got to try to get our baby out of there. And so
hold on, just stop for the audience too. So you walked 2.5 hours, Rico, to get food. With one eye you are blind in, the other eye you're legally blind in. How did you do that? That's incredible.
Well, I just made sure I was hydrated. I took a bottle of water because the second time my retina detached, I had been rushing for a train, and I think I overstressed my body, and I was pouring sweat. And by the time I got to the doctor, he said, your retina has detached. We have to attach it again. So I learned at that point, don't stress my body. I can no longer exercise like I used to and things like that, like to the point of strain or whatever. And so I just stayed dehydrated. I kind of paced myself, and we had to eat. and so, once it got really bad and we didn't know if it was going to get worse, we started talking to the embassy. And, you know, I had emailed them back in January when it first started, COVID first started. I said, what if this gets worse? Do you have a contingency plan to get Americans out? And I did not hear anything back month after month. And then things just got worse, as we all know. And then so finally I contacted them again, and they didn't want to help us. I mean, they wanted just to fly us out, you know, to get my son out. They said the best we can do is give you a loan. So I'm going to have to, I ended up having to owe them like $3,000 for 2 tickets one way to get to the home to the US. And so it was extremely difficult, as you can imagine, to leave my wife behind. And this was November 2020, and so it's been over a year now, and I've been fighting to get her home ever since, but there's only 2 options. One, I made the income limit. I'm trying with my books because that's my passion, and what I've been doing for so long is writing. And the only other option is getting a joint petitioner, which is basically like a co-signer who's willing to sign and say, I'll be responsible for this person until they become a citizen. And no one's willing to do that nowadays. I don't have any lifelong friends because I was over there for so long. And I don't have the type of family that is really, he kind of hit the mic.
No worries.
To do that. So I can't turn to anyone to be able to be the joint petitioner. And so it's all on, that everything rests on me.
Wow.
Jenny,
get your voice. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Wow, that's crazy. So the only way is if you get that So hold on. So it's either you have to, and I'm sorry if I'm trying to recap this because there was a lot there. So you either have to pay the embassy or have somebody sign off. Am I getting that correctly, or am I way off?
Well, you have to make the income limit so that you're proving you can take care of this person that you're bringing over.
Okay.
So you have to make that income limit, or you have to find a joint petitioner who's willing to say, I'll be responsible. And so that way they don't incur medical bills or whatever, and the government will have to take care of this person. So the joint petitioner would be the one to sign, and I would still be the petitioner, but there would be a joint petitioner. But for 20 years now, almost everyone I come in contact with, all they say is best of luck. We'll pray for you. Blah, blah, blah. Bye. So I mean, and it seems like, when I came back I was so happy to come back. I mean, bittersweet. To come back home and kiss the ground, to home and introduce my son to it. But it seems like, people just got more distant, and everything over the 20 years almost that I was gone. And man,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been over a year now, and just nobody. I mean, there's no one to turn to. Everyone just says, "Oh, wish you the best of luck." Okay, and
so you have no family or friends, period, anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, and just I don't mean to go off track, but I never knew my dad, and a couple of months ago, I did a DNA test, and for Ancestry.com, and so I had a cousin up there, and I found out my dad died in 2005 of a massive heart attack. And he was only like in his 40s, and his dad died in his 40s also. And so I'm now 47, so I'm kind of scared about that.
Yeah, that's scary, right?
But yeah, my mom's side really is no family. I mean, they don't treat me like family because I didn't grow up around them, and so yeah, I really have no one.
Wow. So your mom passed, or she just?
No, she's on disability, and we don't really have a great relationship. She has some personality disorder type problems, and so we stayed with her for a few months while I was trying to get back on my feet when we got back. But I regret putting my son in that situation. I feel like I failed him as a father because it's just so much of a negative environment, and I tried hard to shield him from the negative environment that I grew up in, because I grew up from a childhood of abuse and poverty, and it was just really hard for me to have him around that. And then finally, with my disability back pay, I moved us out of there, and we live in South Dakota now because this is one of the few places that had no lockdowns. So we went from one extreme to the other.
Well, where were you before, though? Colorado or something?
No, California.
Oh, you were in California before. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just recently moved to South Dakota.
Yeah, about half a year or so now.
Okay, half a year. Okay. And how has been the difference? Pretty nice, or? Yeah,
for the most part, pretty nice. Much more peaceful, and again, there's not the. I mean, I believe in personal responsibility. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's a point where you take it too far, and I don't think people's livelihoods should be taken away. And so I do respect the fact that they did not have lockdowns taking away people's businesses and so forth. I think that's really crosses the line. And so I respect the people here that chose that. And, we're just trying to make it. And we got into low income housing due to my disability. So that helped. We are in an apartment now, but we're just fighting to get mama home. And eventually I'd like to make it to Alaska because, I just want to be surrounded by trees, and I can't stand the heat. And it did get it's humid. It's over here in the summertime. So I'd like to eventually make it to Alaska, but yeah, we're just taking it one step at a time.
Okay. What just Alaska because of the nature aspect, like you said, then?
Yeah, the nature and the coolness, because I can't stand the heat. So just to be around the nature, especially all those trees, and just spend the rest of my days telling stories.
No, it's really a tough life that you've been through, and I appreciate you going in depth with the audience about this story. What do you hope the viewers take from your story that you've been telling throughout this time?
Well, I think my life serves as an example of perseverance, you know, because so I think if someone can see my life, I mean, there's always a story where someone has it worse. So I understand that,
Right.
but there's also a lot of people that don't have it as bad as me. So if they can see that I can persevere, I think they can too. And another thing I didn't mention is I happen to have kyphosis too. I don't know if you can see, but my back is curved over quite a bit, and I have a metal rod fused to my spine. And this is due to kyphosis, and this happened when I was 18. So it was 2 surgeries. They went into the side and took out a disc, and 2 weeks later, they fused a metal rod to the spine so that the spine wouldn't continue on and crush the organs inside. They said they said I should have it when I was young so that my body can recover better. So, you know, I'm dealing with that too, but perseverance, it's about perseverance. And I think, you know, my small family helps get me through it, obviously, and also my passion of storytelling, you know, because fiction, storytelling, it got me through the childhood of abuse and poverty. If it wasn't for fiction, maybe I would have ended up like a product of my environment, you know, either a drug addict in prison or whatever. And so my brothers, they went on in different directions. You know, they wanted me to take drugs with them. They wanted me to go and, you know, go on the streets and break the law or whatever. But, you know, the fiction is what taught me morals and integrity and motivation and everything, all those good traits of a human being. And it really saved my life, really. And so it's not kind of like no wonder I became a storyteller. But yeah, overall, I'd just say, you know, perseverance, because there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's taken some time.
It's really incredible, your story, and the best of luck to you and your wife. Before we end, can you tell the viewers where they can find more about you, if they can help you in any way? I know you do have some sort of GoFundMe going. I know you sent that, I believe so. I could be wrong, but you can tell me in general and the viewers your website, social media, where they can find you, help you out in any way. That would be great.
Okay, yes. So my website is versatilestorytellerbooks.com or versatilestoryteller.com. So same website. And and up there on the About page, I have the part about the GoFundMe. So I did do the GoFundMe, and it didn't work out that great. Didn't come anywhere near, but I did appreciate the few that did pitch in. But yes, so that's why my focus is so much on the books now, because not only is it my passion, but even though people don't really admit it nowadays, they're kind of turned off by kind of like charity cases or what's so forth. I've learned that the hard way, you know, and plus I'm not only about that, you know, I'm a storyteller, you know, and I'm not afraid to admit that I have talent, you know, because I devoted my life to it. I've been doing it for a very long time. I'm just, you know, I tried the traditional route, but nowadays it's like winning the lottery. You know, it really is, because, you know, saturation, anybody online can publish and so forth. And so, but yeah, as far as my books, if people want to support me, I'm a multi-genre author. And so I have everything up there from kids' picture books to, well, now there's one. I tried to get a Christmas book out there before last year, but I was having some formatting issues. So hopefully this year it'll be coming out. But anyway, also contemporary fiction, horror, the crime thriller series, my autobiography, so my life story up to a few years ago before my son came along. Let's see, yeah, there's a few different genres up there, and so yeah, I would just welcome anybody that enjoys storytelling. I welcome them to visit versatilestoryteller.com, and I think they would enjoy the books.
So everybody that's listening, if you could go to versatilestoryteller.com, definitely check it out. It's worth the read. There's so many books there, and I can advocate for Rico. He's a good man, and he does have a lot of talent. So again, check it out. Rico, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob, for having me. I appreciate it as well.